6年からもう15年近くになりますが、J と長くお付き合いさせていただいて、今こそね、J. エイブラハムのこの知恵が日本に必要だと感じています。
And I think it might be a great opportunity because I think they need a new perspective. They need to think differently. They need to see new new ideas, new connections. So you may very well be right. Let's find out today through this discussion.
はい。今回ですね、世界が大きな混乱の中にある、その中でですね、ちょっと今画面を共有させていただきますと、このようなことをですね、テーマに J から知見をですね、いただきたいなと思っています。
Great.
ありがとうございます。まずはですね、こんな質問です。世の中が大変な混乱にありますが、まずアメリカはどんな変化があったのか、そしてロサンゼルスはどんな状況なんでしょうか。世界中が今混乱の中、特にアメリカも今非常に混乱があると聞いています。どんな状況かぜひ教えてください。
Sure. Thank you for asking. So if you have to break it into two parts. We have been devastated by the coronavirus. 40 million people have been unemployed. 105 or 10,000 people have died. Many businesses have been brought to a total stop. They're starting to open again. The market is very apprehensive about being in close connection. Now we have this racial explosion, and there's a lot of dissension, a lot of people that are very, very angry. So our country is in turmoil. It's a very sad time here for a country that should be great and should be a leader of the world. And we're struggling. But as we struggle, entrepreneurs are starting to get back into business. People are opening up again. Truthfully, people are not flocking many places. They are going to bars and restaurants and social things. And I think that's because they've been constrained and been home so much. But it's people trying to get back to normal when we all know that normal is not the same normal that we left 4 months ago. That's a good answer.
J 個人としてはその後いかがお過ごしでしょうか。体調やご家族のですね状況はいかがでしょうか。ロサンゼルスにお伺いしたことを懐かしく思っています。
Thank you, because you've met many of my children. I'm very lucky. I have a very large, beautiful home, a backyard. My family is very healthy and they're well, and I thank you for asking. And I am, I keep going on. I'm pretty healthy, and my business actually is very good. My type of a business, it does better in a bad market when people are struggling with adversity and they don't have answers, and they don't know what to do. They don't know how to do it. They don't know where to do it, and they're uncertain. Someone like myself is very valuable because I have clarity and I have focus, and I have lived through 5 different downturns. So this is actually, it's very sad for me because of what's going on in the world. And I have great sadness for everyone, your country, our country, China, everybody. But my business actually does very well in a bad market. So that's very interesting. But yeah, my family as well. Thank you for asking. I hope your lovely wife and children are doing well as also. Businesses are struggling, and it's hopefully our opportunity in this discussion to help get them a little bit better poised for for prosperity. But these are tough times. They're very challenging times worldwide.
はい。ありがとうございます。私もね、家族も元気にしておりましてですね、今日の対談でですね、より多くの方に元気になってもらう、そんなきっかけになればなというふうに願っています。質問に移りたいと思います。
Of course.
日本ではですね、もう本当に、日本のみならず世界中が大変かとは思うんですが、特にある業種に、一定の業種によってはですね、大変な経済の落ち込みがあると。我々起業家、経営者、ビジネスオーナーは何を考えていったらいいのか、どんな準備や、そしてどんなことにフォーカスを置いたらいいのか。
Okay, well, let me give you the general advice that I have been giving people all over the world because it's pretty powerful and it's pretty universal. Okay,
Yes.
so, okay, number one, you have to decide, figuratively speaking, where you stand. There's two ways to look at everything. You are either a victim or you are prepared to be a victorious. You are either reactive or you're proactive. You are either defensive or offensive. You are either trying to stay, what would I call it? Defensive ready, or you're opportunity prepared. You're either looking for credible, ethical opportunities, or you're looking to hide. You have to decide which of those two sides of the process you're on. If you're negative, you're going to hurt and you're in trouble. If you come at it with a much more positive, strategic attitude, looking for where the qualitative opportunity lies in adversity and how you can tap into those opportunities while benefiting others, then you're coming at it from a whole different mindset. That's the first thing. Why don't you explain that and then I'll give you the rest, okay? So here's what I'm telling entrepreneurs, and this will be probably equally as important and more so maybe to your market because they're not as strategic. So I think you have to look at your business if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner and start by saying, am I selling something that my market is still buying? If the answer is yes, then you've got to basically become better at marketing, better at strategy, better at selling, better at lead generating, better at converting. If you're selling something they aren't buying, if you're selling something they are buying and you're not buying as much now, you've got to ask yourself, what else do they buy before they buy my product, as they buy my product, after they buy my product, instead of buying my product? And when you identify what those categories are, you have to make partnerships with other companies that sell those products or services. So you can now also offer those to your buyers because it can double or redouble the amount of revenue you bring in, the amount of profit you can generate, which is critically important when you're not selling as much. If your market is not buying what you're selling, then you have a number of choices. The first choice is to ask yourself, what are they buying that it is logical that they would be willing to buy from me if I were able to source it and recommend it because they trust me in that category. So you find other products or services that you know they're buying because you know the profile, the categories of products or services your past client is buying. And the first thing you do if they're not buying your product is you literally start finding other products or services that you can source, that you can offer them. At the same time, right now, there are 5 windows of opportunity that are open that will close soon when everything gets back to normal, but they're very, very big opportunities for struggling entrepreneurs right now. And I'd like to explain them, but it'll take a while. So as a courtesy to you,
そこはぜひ聞いてみたいですね。
let me explain. So the first one, and it's very unique because your country is not used to this, but because so many businesses have been impaired financially by this, and they are not. They're struggling, and they're uncertain, and they're not financially as strong as they were. Many companies, many organizations, many influencers, many media companies are open today to doing collaborations, joint ventures, partnerships, co-branding, endorsements, collaborations, referrals. And you need to identify who they all are. Who has the audience you want to reach? Who has a buyer group that is a perfect match for your product? Who has a reach to a category of people who your product could be added to theirs, and vice versa? Who's got products or services you could partner with and take to your buyer base? Because today, more than ever before, you can make deals together that all sides benefit from. And most people, particularly in Japan, would never do that. But now, more than ever, they're receptive. That's number one.
コラボレーションやジョイントベンチャーというふうに理解していいんでしょうか？
Yes. You want me to continue? Okay.
お願いし
The
ます。
next one is, it's interesting. There are many smaller companies who were not prepared for what has happened. They're in very significant trouble, and they may lose their business, but at very best, they're losing money. If you can identify who they are, and they can be competitive, they can be complementary. These products or services people buy before, during, after. They can even be alternative, things people buy instead of buying your category of product. If you can identify them and you can contact them, even though they have a lot of pride, you can make an arrangement to acquire either the business or just the assets, their buyers, their prospects, their URL, their phone number, their intellectual property. And if your business is strong enough and you have enough internal organization, you can take their operation, incorporate it into yours for very little extra expense, so you can pay them a share of the profit from what you buy from them, and they'll make more by you taking it over because you already have an infrastructure, an organization. They reduce all their people, and you can pay them more than they can make themselves trying to save their business. And there's tens of thousands of businesses like those: competitive businesses, complementary businesses, alternative products that are the products they would buy instead of yours. You can acquire all kinds of businesses today and pay for them out of the profits you create, because by combining, you can make a losing business profitable, since you've already got the overhead, the infrastructure, the staff, the accounting, the account billing, the delivery. So that's the second thing.
次を続けてお願いします。
Okay, this is really interesting. And I'm assuming in Japan, it's the same here. So we have 40 million people who've been unemployed. And if they tend to be at two ends of the spectrum: low skilled and then super skilled. Now, the low skilled, for this purpose, all we can do is have respect, empathy, sadness for them, but it doesn't relate to what I'm saying. The super skilled ones here, and if it's the same in Japan, it's a really interesting opportunity, because they lost their job because either they could not perform the function anymore because of what was happening, or they were just too expensive and the employer wanted to get them off the payroll. What no one recognizes is that these people, before they lost their job, they had very high level relationships with decision makers all over in all kinds of categories, managing directors, heads of IT departments, buyers, delivery people, service people, doctors, all these things. And now they're out of work. If they are not covered by a legal non-compete, meaning they are not restricted, you can find these. You have LinkedIn there, don't you, Yayo?
Mm-hmm.
You can go to LinkedIn, you can find them. You'll know they're out of work because it says available. They're used to making very large salaries. Now they're making very little if you have unemployment or they have no money, and they're scared. And you can contact them. And if you can prove to them that your company, your product, your service deserves it, you can get these people who might have spent years building trust and credibility with decision makers that you could never gain access to. They can introduce you, they can make connections, they can source opportunities for you you'd never be able to create on your own. And all you have to do is pay them a finder's fee, a share of the result. You'll never have that kind of direct introduction, access, relationship available to you without paying a fortune and only paying for it on results. And they're all over Tokyo, all over the world.
人を解雇しないと悩んでるレベルから一つ上の、これはチャンスなんだと、採用するチャンスなんだと捉えるっていうのはすごく大きな視点のブレイクスルーだと思います。ぜひ4つ目も聞かせてください。
Okay, and the fourth one's really interesting. Again, I don't know how many people are unemployed in Japan. Here it's 40 million. And about 5 million are estimated to be salespeople. And most of these salespeople are out of work either because what they were doing they can't do now because it hasn't reopened, or what they were selling isn't very sellable right now because people aren't buying that. But these salespeople are used to making a lot of money on commission and on bonuses, and they're unemployed and they're making very little and they're very, very stressed, and they're available. Normally you have to pay big salaries, but right now you can find these salespeople. You can find general ones. You can find ones that sold to very specific industries that you are interested in. You can use them for 4 things. One, for all 3 of those things I just talked about. You can use them to source for you deals with other companies, with media companies, with influencers. You can use them to try to identify companies you might be able to acquire on a profit sharing basis only for no investment, no fixed investment. You can use them to try to find you all these unemployed people who could introduce you to their contacts. Or you can have these salespeople just go out to whatever the target audience your product or service sells to and have them basically go out and try to get your clients. You can do all of those, and you can find these people very easily in any kind of either a LinkedIn, or you can find them on employment sites, but they will never be as available. You can get 100 of them, 1,000 of them working for you strictly on commission. And if any of them pay off, you can have them finding you deal partners. You can have some of them finding you companies you can take over. You can have some of them finding you people who are out of work who can connect you to great decision makers who can buy from you. You can have some of them just selling to prospective buyers. You can have all that going on, and none of it has to cost you a penny in fixed income.
はい。ありがとうございま
There's
す。
Thank you.
最後の一つですね。ぜひ
Yes, the last one. Yes, definitely, please.
This one's a little more sophisticated. I call it options trading, but it's not the kind of options trading that you think about in the stock market. It means getting an option on other companies' products, service, access, assets. Maybe you get an option to buy or use their sales force. Maybe you get an option to take over one of their businesses. Maybe you get an option, which means the right to create a new product under their brand. You don't have to pay anything to get the option. Then you get a chance to test to see if it will work before you ever have to pay for it. Again, because people are very open right now because they are all hurting financially. They're all hurting for business. They're more open today to doing things with other companies and people. I'll give you one example, Yayoi. Here in the United States, four recessions ago, when we had recession 4 times back, a friend of mine found out that our Rose Bowl, you all know what the Rose Bowl is?
Rose Bowl is
They have a football game. You ever see that?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the Rose Bowl is this big stadium, but it's only used a couple of times a year. It's used for the Rose Bowl football game. One of the colleges here uses it 13 times in the fall, and then they have a few concerts. But most of the time, this huge facility isn't used for anything, and it has huge parking, huge everything. And this friend of mine, when there was a recession 4 times back, this is the 5th one that I've lived through, but 4 times ago, we realized that the Rose Bowl had all this facility and it wasn't being used. So he went to the management and he got the rights. He got an option to produce and hold flea markets. You know what a flea market is?
Yep.
Flea markets there on all the weekends that it wasn't being used. And he agreed to pay them a share of all the revenue. My friend knew absolutely nothing about flea markets, but he got the rights. He got an option to do flea markets. Once he got that option, he found our country's largest management company that specialized in doing flea markets. He went to them with his option. He sold them his option. They paid him about $500,000 in cash, plus he got a permanent override on the percentage just because he tied up the right. He got an option on the right, but we call it flipping it. He gave it to somebody else, but he tied it up. Does that make sense to you?
So somebody else will be able to run the flea market on
Yeah, but he gets paid. He got paid $500,000 just for negotiating it, and he gets a permanent royalty over all that they pay to the Rose Bowl.
まさに J らしい、その非常に洗練された上級編の内容もね、公開していただきまして、本当にありがとうございます。
You're welcome.
今、5つの窓のお話をしていただきましたが、多くの方にとっての今だからこそのヒントっていうのがたくさんあったと思います。
Well, it's about thinking differently. You have to see opportunity that others don't. You have to, and a lot of these opportunity, Kachiro, they help everybody. If somebody's business is in trouble, if you can take it over and pay them more money than they're making, well, trying to keep it alive. If somebody's out of work and you can give them a way to make a lot of money by introducing you to their contacts, if a salesperson who's out of work can generate a lot of new business for you in ways that you wouldn't on your own, and they profit, you're helping others help you, and everybody wins.
いつものインタビューならどんどん突っ込んで聞いていきたいんですけれども、ちょっと J の喋る時間をなるべく長く取ろうと思ってですね、次の質問に行きたいと思います。前編を見ていただきましたけれどもね、この中、5つの窓っていうことの中でも、非常に淡々とね、概念を話してくれましたけれども、非常に重要なコンセプトが含まれていたんですね。それ何かっていうとですね、こちらです。コラボとか、ジョイントベンチャー、JV ですね。あとは、リレーショナルキャピタルってもしかしたらね、初めて聞く方いるかもしれません。これちょっと話すと これだけで2時間から3時間ぐらいのね、時間が必要にはなるんですけども、この、概念としては非常に近いものです。コラボと考えていただければいいんですが、この2つの登場人物があるんですね。1つの会社と1つの会社、A 社と B 社が一緒に何かをするっていう、例えばさっきのスタジアムみたいなところと、別の会社。それぞれが持っている資産を共有すると、持っているもので生かされてない資産。それを必要としている人。このね、資産と資産、そしてニーズ。相手の持っているニーズ。これが欲しい。でもその人はそれを持ってない。資産としてない。一方でこの人はこれが欲しい。で、別の資産を持っていると。このうまく掛け合いができた瞬間にですね、ビジネスが、非常に簡単に言ってますよ。非常に簡単に言ってますけど、一気に伸びていくっていうことでですね、業績が1桁、2桁上がっていく会社がもう続出したのがこのリレーショナルキャピタルとかね、コラボって概念なんですね。我々のね、3日間の集中講座の中でコラボのね、概念をお伝えして、7つの手順とかね、事例をたくさんお伝えしたりとかしてですね、J のいくつかのね、実際に過去に行った大成功した事例なんかもね、いくつか、その講座の中では紹介してますけど、興味があったらね、ぜひ3日間の講座出ていただければと思いますが、まずですね、彼が言ってる概念、膨大なこのお客様、今いるお客様を本当に大事にしようってところからそれをね、理解してもらいたいってことがですね、さらっと言ってるので、結論からね、こういったことがあった、あんなことがあったって話してくれるから、じゃあ自分にどう使ったらいいかっていうのはわからないっていうのをですね、最近出た本でですね、このレガシーって本にこれが全部実は書いてあるんですよ。で、この話をするとこれだけでまた長い話になってしまうんで、後ほどもね、J からも話多分あると思うんですけど、卓越の戦略のね、ところで彼が解説してくれますけども、このね、J のね、難しいコンサルだとか、概念の紹介なんかを、全部コンサル受けて、全部講座受けて、全部商材買ってですね、ビデオとかも全部見て、ミスター X っていう方がですね、J のことをまとめたんですね。で、あまりにもよくまとまりすぎてて、J が怒ってですね、この野郎勝手にまとめやがってですね、しかもそれを本にして出そうって言ってですね、出されたんですね。日本では、ミスター X っていう書籍、ないしはエイブラハムマーケティングバイブルって言ってですね、これね、かつてね、5万円で販売してたんですよ。これもう辞書みたいに熱い内容で、もう本当はね、分冊になってる方なんですけども、そうそう、このコラボとかね、リレーショナルキャピタル、関係性資本ってことなんですよ。このね、今ある既存顧客との関係性、もしくは取引先との関係性、あなたの知人とかね、Facebook で繋がっている、そうしたものをキャピタル、つまり資本金に変えられるぐらい、現代社会っていうのはですね、関係性こそが価値なんだと。つまり絆なんですね。絆ができているかどうか、あなたがお客様や取引先、人間関係ができていること自体が実は価値であるってことがですね、もう私ね、かつてのね、前のミスター X なんかはもうすでに私何度も読んでるっていうか、私が編集してましたから、日本で最もこれを読み込んでる人なんですね。で、改めてですね、これ IMK ブックスさん、うちの商品じゃないんで別に宣伝する必要全くないんですけど、IMK ブックスさんが出してるこれ見たらですね、あまりにもよく出てきて、これ見えます？このね、レガシーね、あまりにも編集よくできてて読みやすいんですよ。J なのにって言ったら J に怒られるけど、J なのにめちゃくちゃわかりやすくて、私もね、日本語訳の時の編集しまくったにもかかわらず、赤ペンを何度も引くようなですね、本が出来上がったってことでですね、今回ね、IMK ブックスの小林社長がもう本当に非常に誠実に本を作られてですね、だったら応援しますよと別に今更ね、J のものを扱うとかっていうつもりももともとなかったですし、弊社ももうすでにマーケティングのね、プログラム、もう世界最高のものなんだって言ってるような講座も作ってあり、ある意味我々からすると J を紹介する理由がない部分もあるんですけど、やっぱりこの本を見てですね、素晴らしいなと思いましたし、今のコロナの時にね、困っている人にこれ伝えたいなと思ってですね、ちょうど今月、このね、J ブラハムの本が、レガシーという本が出るっていうことでですね、今回、日本本邦初公開ということでですね、皆さんよかったらこれぜひ手に取っていただきたいなと思ってます。これね、今までミスター X とか、J ブラハムマーケティングバイブル読まれた方にはちょっと本当に申し訳ないんですけども、本当に申し訳ないんですけども、なんとですね、今回2980円って言うんですよ。税別ですけどね。今までこれ5万円だったんですよ。ミスター X って。5万円で飛ぶように売れていって、これすごいって言って口コミになって読まれた方いらっしゃると思います。当時はまだ J の英語ってやっぱり難しい単語も多かったり、概念として理解しづらいところもあって、読みづらさがあった。でも売れたし、でもたくさんの方が好評だったし、たくさんの人がね、業績一気に上げられた、ミスター X が今回レガシーとなってね、しかも超読みやすくなって、2980 1980円で出るっていうから、本当に皆さんこれはね、読んだ方がいいと思いますよ。今 QR コード出てますし、この動画のね、YouTube の動画の方だと、リンクがね、下のこの動画の説明の方でもっと見るとかクリックすると下に出てくる中に、この本のね、リンクも出てますから、そちらでね、ぜひこのレガシー、2980円ですって、正直衝撃受けちゃいましたね。IMK ブックスさん本当に頑張ってくださったなと思う。編集ね、頑張ってくれたなと思いますし、これが世に出るってことは、これからのね、コロナでもうどうしようとか困ってるとか、新たにビジネスなんかしないといけないって方にとってはね、別に本当に繰り返しになるけど、うちの商品じゃないんで宣伝する必要全くないんですけども、皆さんにとってね、お役に立てるんじゃないかなということで共有させていただきました。それではですね、動画の後編に移っていきたいと思います。後編ではですね、卓越の戦略、エイブラハムの卓越の戦略についてのお話がありますのでね、ぜひ楽しみにしていただければと思います。